Okay then, we're going to do a brief review of plant diversity on the Seminole campus. So this would be a good opportunity if you ever wanted to wander around campus to look at different types of plants we have right here on campus, or if you needed to get some pictures for your biological collection, if you're doing a plant collection. You can see, I'm going to try to orient you where we are so you can find your way around. Right now we're in between the UP building and the TL building. So we'll start out. Let's look right here to the right as we came out of the UP building. We have this beautiful string lily. Well, it's obviously a flowering plant. We know it's a flowering plant. Can we tell if it's a monocot or dicot? We know it's division magnoliophyta, a flowering plant. Well, there are two things we can look at in the field for sure. We can look at the leaf veins. The leaf veins all look to be running parallel. So that's an indication that it's a monocot. The other thing we could look at would be the flowers themselves. We can count the petals. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Threes or multiples of 3. That's another indication. This is a monocot flowering plant. Division magnoliophyta and class Monocotyledonnae, monocot. Here's another flowering plant right next door. This is a hibiscus. Just looking at the flowers, you can tell it is a dicot. Dicots have 4, 5, or multiples of 4 or 5 flower parts. Counting the petals there, I see 5. You could also look at the leaves. Unlike the monocots, which have parallel leaf veins, dicots have netted or branched leaf veins. Division magnoliophyta, class Dicotyledonnae, a dicot. Let's head on over kind of toward the entrance of the TL building, because there are a couple we can look at right over here. We've got a couple plants here that bear observation. You can see a whole bunch of these low-growing guys. These are kunti. Now kunti, at first glance, may look kind of fern-like, but we know it's not a fern because if we look down in there, you can see a little cone-like structure starting to form. This reproduces by cones. If it was a fern, it would be reproducing by spores. What reproduces by cones? Well, it could be a conifer or it could be a cycad. Kunti, in fact, is a native cycad, division cycadophyta. We'll see another one, I think, in just a little bit that may have some bigger cones. Kunti, a cycad, division cycadophyta. Now, right here next to it, we have a palm tree. Palm trees, real palm tree, like this one, which is our state tree. This is a sable or cabbage palm. They are flowering plants. You can see some of the old flower structures up there where it had flowers and then fruit. It's a flowering plant, so it's division magnoliophyta. Looking closely at the leaves, maybe you can tell parallel leaf veins. Parallel leaf veins indicate it is a monocot. Division magnoliophyta, class Monocotyledonnae, monocot. Real palm trees are flowering plants. Alright, to give you a feel for where we're heading from here, here's the TL building, the entrance to the TL. We're going to go down the side of the TL building. We're heading toward that area right over there at the end of the parking lot. We're now here at the end of the parking lot. If I turn around so you can see where we came from. Back there, where we originally started, that's the area between the UP and TL buildings. We just made our way down to the end of the parking lot here. There's a little pond here. There are a couple interesting plants that we can look at. One we just saw. This is kunti again. You recognize kunti. This one has some big cones in there. Those are some big female cones. Kunti, like all the cycads, they're dioecious, so they're separate sexes. That's a big old female cone. If this had been a male kunti, it would have kind of little wimpy male cones. Kunti, division cycadophyta. Right next to it, this guy is another cycad. It's misnamed though. This is a sago palm. We just looked at the cabbage palm. Real palm trees are flowering plants. Even though they call the sago palm a palm, it is not really a palm. I understand why they called it a palm. It kind of looks palm-like. But instead of being a flowering plant, this is another cycad, division cycadophyta. The sago palms get cone-like structures for reproduction. Another cycad, division cycadophyta, a sago, S-A-G-O palm. Now behind the sago palm, let's take a look. If I wander around back here behind the sago palm, maybe you recognize this guy. Let me zoom in a little. What is this growing back here? Looks kind of like a green stem. Not much to it. That's a whisk fern. Whisk fern, division Xylophyta. This one has some of the spore-producing structures starting out. Those little green spherical looking structures on there. When they get ready to release spores, they're going to turn kind of an orangish color. Then spores will go everywhere. Whisk fern, division Xylophyta. From here, we're going to make our way down toward the little pond. Right there. Standing here beside the little pond next to the TL building, we have a cypress tree. This is a pond cypress tree. Just like the bald cypress we have in the area, the pond cypress is a conifer. It produces cones. It gets these little spherical, kind of golf ball looking cones on it. That is the pond cypress. Just like the bald cypress, the cones are going to be very similar. Kind of little green golf ball shape. It's division Coniferophyta. Another division. We just made it to the end of the parking lot, and what, we've already got a number of different plants and divisions under our belts. Along the margin of this little pond, assuming it hadn't been overgrown, we should be able to find another one. Well, honestly, this guy has seen better days. This is a horsetail. It's getting kind of overgrown here. You can tell it's a horsetail because it looks kind of like miniature bamboo. It has the segments going. And it is not bamboo. Bamboo is a grass-like plant, meaning it's a flowering plant like the grasses. Horsetail doesn't have flowers. It reproduces by spores. Horsetail typically does grow in wet, moist, open areas. This guy looked like he's seen better days, but hopefully he'll come back. Horsetails are in division Sphenophyta. Sphenophyta, another division right here. Division Sphenophyta. And we're right next to the pond. If you're looking for a location, there's that pond cypress tree back there by the TL building. And along the margin of the pond, that's where we found the horsetails. Up here, looking a little bit further away from TL, there's a little conifer coming up. This is a cedar. Cedars are also conifers. This is our most common cedar in the area. This is a southern red cedar. It has scale-like leaves, not so much needles. They're overlapping scale-like leaves, kind of look like fish scales that overlap. If you crush it up, it smells like Christmas. This guy's still young. He didn't have any cones yet. If they get cones, they look kind of like berries, honestly, but they're not berries, they're little cones. They're bluish-gray in coloration, small bluish-gray cones. It's another conifer, division Coniferophyta. Southern red cedar. How about oak trees? We got a big old laurel oak tree here next to the pond. Oak trees. What type of plant are oaks? Well, let's think. Well, they produce fruit, right? Acorns. Well, if it produces fruit, it came from a flower. meaning that this is Division Magnoliophyta, a flowering plant. Can we tell if it's a monocot or a dicot? That may be tricky because all the leaves are way up there. It's hard to see if the veins run parallel or they're netted or branched. One thing you can do, leaves fall off. So you can look around on the ground for a leaf. Sure enough, there's one. And now I can probably tell. How about those leaf veins? What do we have? Oh, they're definitely not running parallel. They're netted or branched, meaning it's a dicot. Division Magnoliophyta, class Dicotyledonea, a dicot. Over here in the same general area, there are a number of pine trees. This one here, along the edge of the pond, same pond. This is a slash pine, a very common pine tree that we have in Florida. Slash pine, like all of our pines, what division would it be? Well, look at that. You know pine cones. So it has cones for reproduction. It is a conifer, another conifer. Right here in this area, then, we saw 3 different conifers. We saw the pond cypress, the southern red cedar, and now we have a slash pine tree. Here along the margin of the pond, I can see some fuzzy green carpet looking plant. What the heck is this? That's true moss, real moss. True moss, real moss looks kind of like this fuzzy green carpet. It's a non-vascular plant. It's in Division Bryophyta. Division Bryophyta. The real mosses, true mosses. Fuzzy green carpet. This is what it looks like. Just a little ways down, still behind the TL building back there, this is a Chinese elm tree, but that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at this. I know you recognize this. This is Spanish moss. Spanish moss is not moss. It is misnamed. We just saw real moss, true moss. Looks like a fuzzy green carpet. It's a non-vascular plant, Division Bryophyta. Real moss is a non-vascular plant. But what about Spanish moss? Spanish moss is actually a flowering plant. It's a flowering plant. It's in Division Magnoliophyta. Make sure now you don't put down Bryophyta for Spanish moss. Alright, where am I now? Well, I've wandered toward the other side of the TL building. And to orient you, that's the TL building there, and if I swing around you can see, alright, there's the pharmacy building, there's the big old lake that's near the entrance to campus. Anyway, we're looking at these guys. This is another type of palm we have in the area. This is a pygmy date palm. What kind of plants were palms? Real palms. Real palms, flowering plants. You can see they got some fruit on them. If there's fruit, it came from a flower. Division Magnoliophyta. And as we already saw, when we looked at the cabbage palm or sable palm tree, looking up close at the leaves, you can see the veins all run parallel, so we know it's a monocot. Down here near the base of these pygmy date palms, we got some pretty little pentas growing. Pentas, if I'm just looking at the flowers now, monocot or dicot? I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals, which means it's a dicot. Of course, you could also look at the leaves. The veins in the leaves are netted or branched. You would know it is a dicot. Alright, to give you a feel for where I've wandered, I wandered up past the TL building now. There's the TL building. That direction's a UP building. I'm going to head out to the boardwalk. Hopefully it's open. We'll see. Regardless, I'm pretty sure we can see some ferns up here. So let's wander out toward the ponds, the lakes out this way. Well, looks like they have the boardwalk closed. So what I'll do is before I leave campus, I'm going to drive around over there by the library And in the woods by the library, there are a good number of ferns. I'm sure I could make my way down here next to these ponds and find some, but I know there's quite a number of ferns over there by the library. So I'll just do that so we can see some ferns that are right on campus. Let's head back toward the building then. Well, I did notice I was making my way around the pavilion here toward the parking lot, and I did see on the edge of the woods there are some ferns. So we'll go ahead and get these. I will stop as well by the library up here on my way out. These ferns are Boston fern. Boston fern, division Pterophyta. Before I leave the main part of campus and head over toward the library to see some more ferns, I did want to point out one that's right here by the entrance to the UP building, not where we started, which was over there between the UP and the TL buildings. Right here at the main entrance there is a plant, and you can see some of the big ones coming up here poking through. These guys are cardboard palms. Cardboard palm. Just like the sago palm, these guys are misnamed. They are not palms at all. They are cycads, division Cycadophyta. They're going to produce cone-like structures for reproduction. And right here, as long as we're looking at these cardboard palms, the cycads, right next to them you got a bunch of grass plants coming. And you see, grasses, they do have flowers. Even though a lot of times they're not noticeable, they will have flowers. These aren't the flowers, these are the seeds that came from the flowers. Here you can see on this one some of the tiny little flowers that are there. You have to keep in mind, just because it's a flowering plant doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have big, beautiful flowers. Sometimes the flowers are rather indistinct, and it relates back to, well, how is it getting pollen from one flower to another? If it's a plant like grass, it uses the wind, and so there's no point in making big pretty flowers if you're using the wind to spread your pollen. The wind does not care what your flowers look like. We know it's a flowering plant, division Magnoliophyta, and if we could look closely, I'm not even going to attempt to zoom in, these leaves are tiny. But if you zoomed in, you could tell the leaf veins are parallel, so we know it's a monocot. Alright, as promised, I made a stop at the other end of campus. You can see where I am. I'm in the area north of the library. That's the library there. That's 113th. Noisy traffic going by. Where we have a whole bunch of ferns here on campus is right back here in the woods. So if you come north of the library, just come down to the end of the parking lot. I'm way down here at the end. And head into the woods, you'll find a number of different species of fern here. Alright, I made my way into the woods here. There's the parking lot out there. If we turn around and look into the woods, you can tell it's rained a bit lately because we got standing water back here. There are a variety of different types of ferns out here in the woods, right here on campus. We have swamp fern, there's cinnamon fern, Hottentot fern, shield fern, a number of different species. Just to give you a feel for what's right here as you walk in, this type of fern right here, this is swamp fern. And how do I know it's a fern? Well, if I turn over a leaf, swamp fern's very identifiable in that it gets these linear sori underneath the leaves. So this is underside the leaf. You see it's got these lines of sporangia, spore-producing structures. Anytime we have a collection of sporangia, it's known as a sorus. Collectively then, sori, plural, is sori. That gives it away, this guy, as a swamp fern. So we have swamp fern here. There are also a number of other types of ferns right back here on campus. What division are ferns? Pterophyta. Division Pterophyta. We've seen a number of divisions of plants then, right here on campus. More than enough representatives. If you're doing that biological collection, you can get it done on campus if you want, But remember, we're right around the corner from Extension in the Botanical Gardens, where they have a great diversity of plants there as well. I hope this review helped you. And now, if you want, you can go out and about on the Seminole campus and see the plant diversity that we have right here on campus. Good place to review, and keep in mind, if you're doing that plant biological collection, you can get a good number right here on campus. As an addendum, the horsetails in the small pond by the TL building at the south side of the campus, well, they haven't been doing very well. So I am here behind the UP building, the north side of the UP building, and there's some new horsetails that have been planted, and they seem to be doing very well here. If you're looking for horsetails, so behind the UP building, if you're going on the solar system walk, it's right by Saturn, and you come over down to the shoreline, and you can see the horsetails planted over here. Division Sphenophyta, the horsetails. Also, along the margins of this pond, you'll see many different types of ferns. Division Pterophyta. If you're looking for horsetails, the ones up there near the TL building probably aren't there anymore, or if they are, they're not doing really well. Come behind the UP building and take a look at these guys.